Hello bachcho, the question is which one of the following is related to ex-situ conservation of threatened animals and plants? So threatened animals and plants are the plants and animals which are facing the threat of extinction. These include vulnerable, critically endangered and the endangered organisms. Now, to preserve these or to conserve these, there are two approaches. One is known as the in situ conservation, while the other approach is ex situ conservation. So, in situ conservation is also known as on-site conservation, while ex situ conservation is known as off-site conservation. In this conservation or in this type of conservation, the organisms, whether it is a plant or an animal, they are protected or they are given protection in their natural habitat. For example, a lion which is living in a forest, it is protected there in the forest itself, so in its natural habitat. So such an approach is known as in situ conservation, while the other approach is ex situ, where the organism is taken away from its natural home and it is protected at some other place. For example, if a lion is protected in a zoo, so that is away from its natural habitat, so it is an approach of off situ conservation or ex situ conservation. Now here we have to choose the option which is an example of ex situ conservation. So now let's see one by one these options. First is biodiversity hotspots. So biodiversity hotspots are the protected areas which are characterized by three things, and these three characters are high biodiversity. It means these are the areas where there is a high or rich biodiversity regions, and also there is high degree of endemism. When we say endemism, it means the species which are found here are not found anywhere else. So such places are the home of various species which are restricted only to these areas. So these species are endemic, so not found anywhere else. And also here the species are facing the threat of extinction. So these characters are required for a place to be called as the biodiversity hotspots, and in India there are three biodiversity hotspots. Now if the biodiversity hotspots, although they are having a very less surface area, but they have a rich biodiversity. So here if the areas are protected, it means all the organisms found in these areas will be conserved. So such an approach involves the conservation of these biodiversity hotspots. So this will provide the conservation to all the flora and fauna found in this region in their natural habitat. So the biodiversity hotspots are the examples of in situ conservation. While Amazon rainforest, these are the examples of tropical rainforest where there is a high productivity. These Amazon forests, they are called the lungs of the planet because they are so productive that they provide 20% of total oxygen on this earth. So here if the rainforests are protected, it means all the plants and animals found in these areas will be protected there. So it is a method of in situ conservation. While Himalayan region, so Himalaya is a biodiversity hotspot. So if the Himalayan regions are protected, it will provide the in situ conservation of all the flora and fauna there. Then comes the wildlife safari parks. So wildlife safari parks are the commercial drive-ins which are larger than a zoo. These are like a zoo, but their areas are generally larger than a zoo, and these are commercial drive-ins for tourists. Here the tourist can take a ride on their own vehicles or the provided vehicles, and there they can observe the animals which are freely wandering here and there. So here in safari parks, the animals are taken away from their natural habitat and they are protected there in a zoo like commercial drive-in. So this is a method of ex situ conservation because here the animals are taken away from their natural habitat. The animals which are found in a safari park, they are being taken away from their natural habitat like forest and all. So this is a method of x-situ conservation. So out of these four, the one which is an x-situ approach is the wildlife safari park. So the right answer of this question is option D. I hope this explanation is clear. All the best.